Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Welcome back to the Canine Detection Collaborative. My name is Crystal Wing, and I am here with Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And Robin Grubel.
Howdy.
Howdy to you and hello to you.
Yes.
I made a Facebook post, and I had no idea that we were going to have so much response. And it was just on my personal page. And I had an incident between Checkmate and Yukon. Checkmate is my Belgian Malinois, and he was, I think, 2 years old at the time, or maybe even a little younger. And Yukon is 3 at the time. They're about a year apart. And it was an incident. It was a fight, and it happened. Checkmate has bad hips, and by the time this airs, he will now be fully bionic with both of his hips, not two of them, but both of his hips replaced. So hopefully, I'll be on the swing of getting rehab and getting him back on his feet. But his hip popped out, and it was when Yukon and they just were playing in the backyard, and they were best buddies, and I managed their play. I try not to let them get over the top because 2 intact young males, you know how that goes. And I really feel that ever since the moment of Check's hip popping out when Yukon played with him, he has hated Yukon from that moment. And I know people will say anthropomorphizing. I'm just going to tell you that was the event that changed everything. And from that moment forward, Checkmate has always been aggressive toward Yukon. I've had to have them separated. I got to the point where I could have them in the house together. Very highly managed. They both had jobs. One's on this mat, one's on that mat, but it's been so much work. And then I've had a couple other management failures. And so just sharing that little crate and rotate that's how life is. I guess I just, you assume that people know more about you than they do, and it's not glamorous. And I shared the not glamorous part that it's a crate and rotate life. And it was amazing to me how many people that really resonated with, and that so many comments. So I thought, hey, let's talk about that here because, having high drive, powerful dogs, it's a thing and we all have them.
It is a thing. And my dogs are housed in very specific ways. And it's even down to, I have 5 labs and a Dutch Shepherd.
Very different breeds.
Very different breeds.
What?
Yep.
And I know, right?
I have a lab mixed with a Dutch Shepherd.
Well, except when you have one that's like a combination of the two. Yeah.
And the interesting thing to me is I have a couple of labs that have as high of prey drive as my Dutch Shepherd.
I believe it.
If not higher.
If not higher.
When I watch Ember,
yes.
She's a force.
She is a force. And I have to house her with Nico because if I house her with anybody else, her pushiness and that prey drive is actually quite dangerous. And Nico's come when I let them out to run sometimes and we've been practicing very hard on arousal levels when going out to run, that everybody has to be under control. And that isn't to be a sexy training thing. That's actually a safety issue.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have that level of control off of them, I'm going to end up at the vet with, people are going to need stitches, and they need enough stitches anyway because they do stupid things.
With all your barbed wire.
With all the barbed wire and whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you get a dog with a lot of motor, which is what I specifically ask for and I look for in my breedings, there comes with it a level of everyday management. And, I come from, if you would have told me I would be having this particular conversations 15 years ago, when I had a medium drive border collie who was fantastic. And then Moses came into my house, and Moses and Talon didn't really like each other. They tolerated each other, but I could manage them because there were only two.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would still leave. And until Moses was about 4 or 5, somebody was in a crate every time I left, just because I didn't want to have to deal with the stress.
Oh, I wouldn't leave any of my dogs loose together for
No.
like I wasn't there. When you have high drive dogs, you have to assume a certain level of management is going to have to happen. And I think a lot of times, especially I know with on the sports side, a lot of folks come in with either breeds that are not typically bred for their working drives, or they not Crystal's type of sport. I'm talking other types of sports. Or they come from you grew up with your pet dog, or the dog that you thought was really cute at the shelter and stuff like that. Although they're pretty, and they can also have a lot of those drives too. But when you're talking about dogs that were specifically bred for work, it's not just the drive that comes out in working. That drive is there. There's so much genetic material there that if you don't have some level of management, it could very well come out in a way that may not go well for maybe, your other animals in your house. If you've got, incompatible types of breeds, or even other small animals or whatever.
Or cows and mini donkeys, because I have that issue. I mean, to watch
Exactly.
your labs run across the field, and I don't think that they
Yeah.
wanted to chase them and kill them, but they're
Yeah.
running across the field after the cows because the cows are running from them. I
Yeah.
swear to God, the labs are like, hey, you look like a really big dog. I want to sniff your butt. But I also see that prey drive kick in
Yeah.
with them. And,
Yeah.
you are not allowed to chase my livestock, period. End of
No.
story.
No.
One kick of a cow. That's all it takes. No more
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah. I mean, or
Mama cows are not nice either.
And
so,
we have coyotes. And so they've learned that dogs are not a good thing.
right.
But then you also watch the dogs pack up and think, well, they could take
Mhm.
down a baby cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And nobody's having any fun with that.
No. No.
So the people who have to crate and rotate, and the only silent dog fight at my house that ended up with 2 of my dogs at a vet and me actually getting bit were my 2 oldest dogs who had lived together peacefully for almost 7 years. And something happened as we were going out on a walk, and one sniped at the other, and the other said, nope, game on.
Yeah.
Silent dog fight.
Mhm.
And if I hadn't had a friend there, I would have had a dead dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't get him separated myself.
That's something that happens. It happens so often, and people, it's like this taboo thing to talk about on Facebook. And when it does happen, that's what bothers me. There's so much judgment about that. The dogs, and not just the people, but the dogs. It's like the dogs who get in that kind of fight get demonized, and it's not fair to the owner, and it's not fair to the dogs. And
you know what? It took about a year, and these 2 are now living happily together, but I managed them.
Yeah.
I manage how they run in and out the door almost every time, because one's 12 and one's 10, and they're just, they get crotchety when they get older.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's 2 points there. The first one Stacy brought up about how we demonize and we judge. And I think that's a huge topic. And I think the other topic there is the elderly dog. And along that makes me think about, so like Checkmate has pain issues.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of times too that we're even unaware that, like, I didn't know at that time that Checkmate had bad hips.
No.
Didn't have a clue. That's when I learned, because after that he was limping, and I took him to the vet. And I remember when she did the x-ray and she said, come in and look at this. And I remember the room getting black and I had to sit down because looking at how bad his hips were, I almost blacked out. Like it was just that
Wow.
bad. And I
Wow.
had no idea that he had bad hips. And that was a moment that I learned it. So not
Yes.
only did I have a dog, that needed a couple stitches, and then I have another dog who's limping that now has an x-ray that I found out that was my sport guy that was, I've waited for 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. I kind of blacked out a little. They're like, here, have a soda.
Yeah.
And so I think there's two parts there to really kind of unpack. And I think with Checkmate, especially at night, I have to go ahead and put him in a box, or I have to give him separate space. What I
Yeah.
love about Radish is the most amazing. She reads dogs so well. She does this smile, and she does this like passive thing, and she's just like, "Oh, Checkmate, you're sweet," and he's like, "I hate you," and he gets really grumpy at night.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Stacy's point about, we demonize that and we judge that. Dude, I get grumpy at night too. I get sore and I hurt. And to not give the dog the same ability to be grumpy and to feel pain and to be able to kind of snark, that's where the management comes in. And I know that I could never have Checkmate and Yukon out, but I know with Radish and Checkmate that she does a great job of it. And I'm right there and I do not leave them unattended.
Right.
And,
right.
So you've set up expectations, but I would never go out and tell people that, Checkmate is some overly aggressive dog. Now, when someone says, will your dog bite? I don't care what dog it is. If they have teeth, I say yes. Even if they just have gums like Quinn did, because, Yukon knocked all of his teeth out, I would say, yes, they bite because they're a dog. And I think anyone that says no doesn't understand that this is not a human. Like I even had a high schooler that bit somebody,
Dogs don't have human morality, and people forget that. They don't have that.
They have mouths, not hands.
They are predators that live in our homes, and they don't have human morality. And it's been this whole, everybody's like, oh, they all have to get along, kumbaya. No.
No,
they don't.
And we were talking about socialization too, and how I want my puppy to go see everybody. Oh, that gives me a whole other thing, but it's the same idea. I always had a job for Quinn. Quinn always knew to sit next to me, and that was my management, was to give him a job. And so even out hiking, as long as he had something in his mouth and he had a job. The same with Radish. If she has something in her mouth, she's fine. She squeals and gets all excited and over aroused, but she keeps it in her mouth like a pacifier. And so you have to figure out what works for each dog. I don't think for Checkmate that would work. I think that if he got over aroused, he would drop what's in his mouth because he enjoys the fight part of things.
Right.
You have to know your dog's threshold, what they can take. You have to understand, and I think a big issue is if you have that high drive working type dog, and then you have a small dog.
Oh my.
And I know some people are out there and they have this combination, and it makes me cringe because I'm like, you've put a lot of hope and prayers into the hope that there's never an issue. And, when you have size differences or age differences, even within the sizes, you have to be careful. You have to be extra, extra careful. It's just the way it is. They don't have human morality.
All you have to do is look up predatory shift.
Yeah.
Look that up and you're going to be like, oh, I've made a bad choice.
We'll include a link. And it's really important. I mean, it's one of those things.
Dogs that live together their whole lives. And now all of a sudden, the little floof ball is no longer alive. And it just happened like that. And you're like, wait, but there were no signs.
How did that work? Yeah.
And there really were no signs. It's just there's a shift that happens and they see the little dog as a bunny instead of their buddy that they were just cuddling with.
Yeah.
And done.
Or a squeak came out in the wrong way. And
one dog snarks at the other and the other one says game on, and that could be it.
One mistake. Like they don't even mean to do it. It's
somebody
just
knocking on the door. You don't know what's going to trigger it.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things where it's just like, I just think that if you get a dog that high drive dog, that dog looks amazing. I want a dog just like that. You have to realize you bring a dog like that into your home, you have to be extra careful.
Yeah.
Maybe leaving them all loose and going out to work all day is not necessarily a great idea. you have to think about these things. And
I know in some countries, like you can't have kennels. And so there's a lot of other considerations there where they have to make sure that everybody gets along. And so
when it comes down to dog selection, you've got to. Yeah.
And I'm in a lucky situation where, being here in the States, it's like I can have a kennel and I have really nice kennels I've built outside. Each of them have heated dog houses. They have their own little pools. Like it's a nice setup. And because I know I'm gone at work, all day, teaching and then coming home but the rest of the night spent with them or doing things for them in some roundabout way. This like the most boring time is doing the podcast and they're like, okay, we'll chill next to you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it too is fulfilling the dog's needs. And I think especially it seems like in the winter, that's when it gets really tense because I'll find myself not wanting to go out and do all of the exercising. And so that's where all of the canine conditioning stuff inside helps and all of the brain power stuff helps. But all of those things start to stack and we don't recognize it. And then all of a sudden there's a blow up and it's like, where did that come from? Well,
they're pent. And by the time this airs, Nico will have been through almost 21 days of downtime due to an injury.
That's crazy for that type of dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lots of drugs.
Lots of drugs. And when I take him out for the very first time, I will take him out by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And we will probably do a mile run. Mm-hmm. And he will get to go by himself. And I will do some interval training with him just to take the edge off. Because, he's also put on a ton of weight. He's sitting around doing nothing.
Well, that and they lose the strength too. They lose the muscle mass.
And so I'm going to have to be careful taking him out. Yeah. But I can't put him right back out with the rest of the dogs because those teeth will redirect onto something else. And, he lives perfectly happy with about the only dog that he bullies. And it's not that he picks on him. He just bullies Dash.
Yeah.
Now, for the last year, they've been happily running together. They don't live together, but they will go out for a run together and they're fine. But I totally don't
know if they would be like if you took them right out, like that's probably not going to go well.
And I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I have had enough vet bills this year. I don't need to find that out.
No.
But you don't think about those things. And going from somebody who, I started out as everybody sleeps on my bed and, all of these other things. I am a person who has working dogs who I treat as pets.
Yeah.
To now I have working dogs.
Yeah.
And my biggest leap has been the fact that I have so many and I have so many that are operating at a really high level. And I don't care. Most working dogs, the most favorite thing on their entire planet is their handler.
Yeah.
And so I have successfully taught all of my dogs that. So I do know that there would be some sort of jockeying for position on who got attention from mom.
Yeah. Yeah. You could easily get into a resource guarding situation there.
Easily. We don't have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't allow it.
Yeah. It's not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, that gets to the management part. So there's certain things that you don't allow. Like, for instance, in my house, I don't allow a lot of inter-dog play because especially when it comes to toys. So if I look at like Powder and Prize are both they both have very strong tug drives. They want it. I don't know if that's an actual drive, but they want to tug. But they both really get that toy. Their arousal goes up. They love to tug. If they had a toy and they continue to tug and that could go up and neither one wanted to let go of it, that could turn into something. So that's something I don't allow. It's never turned into anything.
So you're saying you have vicious dogs. Is that what you're saying?
Oh gosh, no, absolutely not.
And I think that's what some people hear though. And I never understand that. It's like, it's like if you let two kids play and they kept escalating and you didn't step in, Well, what would you expect would happen? One would shove the other, and then the other kid falls down, and either that kid cries and goes running, or that kid gets up and they get into a fight. I mean, it's the same thing. It's so similar, and I would never call those kids vicious.
No, and these two dogs actually really like each other.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with best
they're
friends.
Playing, and they both get so into this is my tug, and they are both thrashers. I mean, they are major, major thrashers, right? And so they're playing with this tug, and if I let it go, I don't know where that would go. I don't want to try it out.
Yeah,
we don't need to tempt that fate, right?
Yeah. So no crazy play. No, there's certain things that you just don't want to do. I've got a little small older herding breed dog. There are certain situations you don't want to mix that with the mosh pit. So because they're breaking all the rules.
I had a fun police, Mr. Charles. He's my fun police.
Yeah.
And sweetest dog ever. But he was probably some border collie, some herding dog for sure.
Yeah.
And if the other dogs got playing a little rough, he would go over and nip at him and tell him to knock it off.
And with some dogs, that could go very badly.
And he would do that to Quinn because Quinn would pull Sable around. And Sable's this big old bear dog, and she's an old farm dog that retired here. And she loved when he would grab her by the neck. It was the weirdest thing. They had the weirdest relationship. But he would grab her by the neck and just chew on her, and he'd pull her around. And if he quit, she'd go over and like bump into him to make him do it again. And she'd lay down again. And I'm like, you're so weird. But if they got a little too carried away, Charles would say, hey, you need to stop that. And he'd nip, Quinn on the back legs. And that's, again, it's management. You'd have to make sure that they weren't out together, that, these two get to play, this one doesn't. And I'm talking, if you ever met Charles, he was the dog that went to all the parades. All the kids hugged him. Like he was that dog, like the best pet dog in the world.
Yeah.
So I think it's the boundaries and the expectations, but you kind of talked about the management, and that's where, when you have dogs, so like I have my Checkmate and Yukon situation. Yukon's the dog that does not want to fight. He is the biggest lover. He's the one that, the Girl Scout stepped on him, and I mean, it hurt him. I mean, she stepped on him hard, didn't mean to. And most dogs would respond by snapping, and he just tried to get away, and she was on him. And I'm like, and so he got free, and then he goes and he gives her kisses like, oh, you're okay, because she was so upset that she stepped on him. I mean, if that tells you how amazing he is. And I mean, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, dude, whoo. But I mean, that you have to also know your dog.
Yeah.
So to understand who he is, and then to understand that, I see that Checkmate now has this angst against him. And knowing that, I have to make sure that my management is rock solid. And we all know, the saying,
management fails.
Oh, and does it. And so they had their little scuffle. I was working hard to reintegrate. We were doing a really nice job of that. I could have them in the house. I could work one. I could have one on a down. It was working well. And actually, Nancy was over at the time, and I was a little distracted. And we were playing with the dogs in the backyard, and I had Checkmate in the kennel in the backyard, and I thought was secure. And it got Checkmate too over aroused, and he broke the kennel. And so we're outside playing with Yukon at the time, and Checkmate comes barreling around, and that was it. And that was the first time management failed for us. And that's just, whoo. And that's where, like, you talk to like Michael Shikashio and those kind of people to help with understanding how to separate dogs so that you don't get bit. It's bad enough that you have two really, strong dogs.
Yes.
And you don't want to take a chance of also getting yourself into it. I've had way too many friends that have had way too many injuries because you do want to jump in. You have to learn how to handle those situations. So if you're going to have dogs, you're going to also have to have the side of, how do I handle these situations? Learn it before you get into that situation. Assume that it's always a possibility.
Yes. And it's one of those things where if you don't know how to handle it, and my two that got in a fight both weighed under 60 pounds. They're probably 55 pounds. Yeah. And there is no way I could have separated them. And and they are just all about biting stuff. They're reacting. And so they redirect onto you.
Oh, yeah. They don't realize they're doing it. And that's the thing that, And now everybody's laid up and there's no point in that.
No. And so I think I know that the people who take care of my dogs, and even my husband sometimes, is like, I don't understand what you do with the dogs all the time, because you've got, some here and you're messing, this one can go with this one, but this one can't go with that one. And I'm like, that's because I know who's bullying who's going to get in a fight.
Yeah.
And I cut that off right at, this isn't going to happen. And it's also the reason, you're constantly rearranging crates.
Yeah.
And
I go back and I wonder, if I let them play a little too hard at times, and then I get really hard on myself. Yeah. And I think that goes back to kind of that self-compassion talk that we had back on Valentine's. Yeah. And me thinking about that and worrying about that, is that really helping anything? Or, beating myself up for the times that management has failed, that's not helping anybody. And now some of that is having to process and make sure that, I can make better choices in the future. And I will say that on the last fight, it was a really traumatic one. Like, oh my gosh, it was really bad. On that one, I was ready to get Checkmate a new home, because at that moment I was like, he could have killed Yukon. It was so bad. And knowing that, I was really mad at Checkmate. I was really mad at him. And is that fair? No, he's doing what dogs do. Yeah. And so then when I recognized that, it was probably 2 or 3 days where I just didn't really want to spend time with him. And I'm being raw here. I'm being honest.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I turned it back on myself then. And then I really, really dug into myself, and I was so hard on myself. And I was like, I shouldn't even have dogs. I don't deserve these animals.
I remember those conversations, and I wanted to reach through the phone.
You know what? I'll go ahead and share the story. So if you don't like hearing sad or scary things, you might want to fast forward.
It could be a little bit of a trigger warning for some folks.
Trigger warning. I had an amazing training day, like one of those just, it was so good. I started off SAR in the morning, and then I had dog club in the afternoon, and then I helped a friend train. And it was just like everything that we did was magic that day. And I was talking to Robin on the phone, and I was at training. I had 4 crates in the van. Yeah, it was 4 crates in the van at the time, but I only had 3 dogs at the time that I'd taken. And I always put the same dogs in the same crates, because I cannot have a mistake of Yukon and Checkmate getting out at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I was distracted, and I was so happy of all the times, right? And Radish jumped into Checkmate's. And so Radish and Checkmate were in the wrong crates. Or maybe it's Yukon, but anyway, 2 of the dogs were in the wrong spots. And so whenever I would get home, I would open the van door, and then I would open the 2 crates on the outside at the same time. And so imagine that I'm standing in between the 3, and I opened up the 2 outer kennels, and those 2 dogs would go past my right shoulder and left shoulder, and they'd meet behind me, and they'd run into the house. Yeah, I let out Yukon and Checkmate. And I'm talking to Robin on the phone while this is happening.
Yes.
Oh, I felt terrible for Robin after it. I remember at one point, and I wasn't feeling well. I just had my vaccine or something. And, I was already worn down. Checkmate's collar came off. I'm in the front yard of suburbia for over 20 minutes. I had evenly matched dogs. If they wouldn't have been evenly matched, I would only have one of those dogs today. Yeah. And I remember just crying and screaming, and it got to the point where I was laying on the ground, just hopeless. I couldn't even lift myself up. And I just kept yelling, they're killing each other. They're killing each other. And poor Robin, she calls Nancy, who's 20 minutes away. And so Nancy gets in the car and drives over to my house, and at this point there's blood all over the ceiling in my living room, because I had finally got them separated, and I had been using a hose to try to, because I didn't have any other options. Yeah. And so I finally got them separated. I closed one dog in the house, and Checkmate and I are laying in the front yard. We're both exhausted. and Yukon's inside, and because of all the water from the hose and the wounds, there's blood everywhere. I mean, it was just terrible. So when Nancy gets there, she's like, okay, who's bit worse? How do we do this? And I'm like, we just need to load everybody up to the vet and we just need to go. And it was only a couple stitches here and there, as terrible as it was. But both of those dogs are dogs that they bite and they grip and they don't let go.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of deep bruising and not a lot of tearing. That is something I never want to live through again. And I've had to make some decisions about, do I keep Checkmate? Do I rehome Checkmate? Because he gets along with all the other dogs. It's just Yukon. And those are conversations to have. And I did worry about people judging me. I'll put that out there.
Yeah.
It's you've got this dog that you gave him a bionic hip. You spent all this money on him. All these people have supported you. You've traveled all these places and done all these seminars and learned so much with him. How could you possibly rehome him? But dude, safety. I know that management is going to fail again. And I cried for days apologizing to Yukon, just hugging him and he would limp and he wouldn't use his legs because he was so sore. There is nothing. I'll never forgive myself for that. And I try hard, but man, I don't know that I can. So the trigger.
Yeah. And I had the two females in my house. I mean, one of my dogs is actually missing one of her canines because I could see what was happening is one of my labs, her prey drive was elevating, and that drift was going to turn her. She wouldn't target the other males, but she'd target my other female.
Yeah. Oh,
and
aggression. Oh man.
You know what they say about that though?
What?
Boys and girls, why they fight? So the male dogs, they fight for breeding rights. And the bitches, they fight for breathing rights.
Yeah,
Breathing
yes.
rights, exactly.
And that's
so
where
breeding
we were
versus
at.
breathing. And when the bitches fight, oh, dude.
Yeah, it's bad. And
Yeah.
one of my dogs lost a canine. She turned to snark at her and bit the wall.
Oof.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
That turn, I saw that starting to happen, and it was immediately I put up different pens in my backyard, so those dogs were never together.
I mean, I had one fight with two of my bitches. It was Brava and Powder, and it was I mean, it was over because I was able to separate them, but it was one of those things where I was sleeping, right, and they're in bed with me. And Powder had a spider bite on her lip. And I guess it hurt.
Yeah.
And I think Brava probably went up and like, what's wrong with your face? And it turned into a fight. Now, Brava is a very non-confrontational dog. Powder is a little bit of a bully. And it was like dark, right? I'm separating dogs in the dark.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, I got kind of bit. Both of them were okay. It was pretty quick because I was up like a rocket, right? And both of them, I think they were just more surprised than anything.
Yeah.
But I was able to stop it before it turned into anything really bad. But I have to say that, after that, Bravo like looked at Powder, was like, "You're crazy. Like, I don't really want to deal with you right now. Like, you're kind of crazy." And she never has really trusted her the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and their relationship has changed to where I think Powder will push her around when she can, because now she knows she can.
Yeah.
And so I'm just careful. And it's one of these things is like, I know there's this dynamic. They're both powerful dogs, and I don't want to have that issue. So I manage it. Now, luckily, I've got, Brava's very non-confrontational, and I manage the interactions, and it didn't turn into, because sometimes you talk to people who, especially with bitches, where if they have a fight, like then it's like, game on. Now that's it.
Yes.
There's no, like they're all of a sudden like these enemies. Like, it's not that issue. I don't have that issue, but I realize it could
Which is impressive. That says a lot.
Yeah, it does.
That says a lot.
I did. So when I spayed Powder, right, I did ovary sparing spay because I'm like, I don't want to get rid of that estrogen. I feel like that estrogen kind of like evens her out.
Yeah.
And, there's all these studies now that, spaying can increase bitch aggression. And I'm like, well, I don't want to rock the boat, so that was the reason why we did over sparing. And I have an amazing vet that can do that kind of thing. So, it's one of those things. It's just like, and when you have powerful, driven dogs that are bred for working, you got to be careful.
Well, and it's been interesting because I'm looking at my poor dogs who, I just went through a litter of puppies, raising a litter of puppies, got them out the door. And now I'm all infatuated with my new puppy, and all of my other dogs
as you should be. Oh my gosh.
She's adorable.
She's
I can't
fantastic.
wait to meet her. I can't wait to meet her.
Yeah. All the rest of my dogs are like sitting in their, the kennels because they can see me, and they're like with their little tin cups. But what about us? And I've been listening to some of the Bobby Lyons stuff and thinking also self-reflection of, instead of running my dogs every day, maybe I actually need to be training my dogs every day. And we run for endurance and athletic stuff instead of using the running as a way to appease the training guilt that I have.
Well, that brings in Liz, because then you can be running too.
Yeah, you're funny. That's my knee already just like reared up and said, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't meaning to pick on you.
It's okay. But and
need to
so
get you a bionic knee, like checkmate.
It's probably common.
Yeah.
So, but the whole thing is okay. So, I need to schedule my priorities, and my priorities need to be training my dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's where a lot of my guilt comes in, because with crate and rotate, I feel like if they could all be out, then they would all get the same attention. And now I have to pick who gets to go on the hike, and I have to pick who stays home. And I put so much guilt on myself for that. And so I really have to stop that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I go back to the self-compassion episode, and that's where I have to go, okay, I want to just for a minute put myself and say, okay, if my dog was to say, what are the cool things we've done this week? And, how have I impacted their life? And then I can go, okay, stop it, So I have to really remind myself that a lot, because I do think I could give them more if it wasn't crate and rotate, but I have to recognize where we are right now. And I also have to set up boundaries for myself. I can't have my entire life be just revolving around my dogs.
Correct.
So there's that balance too that we have to find.
Sorry. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, I agreed to that. Did I just agree to that? Because I don't think that's right.
I'm feeling kind of attacked here.
But you're correct.
When you said the priorities and the boundaries, like those are things that I have to figure out of how can I almost kind of put as much as I possibly can into the time we have. And that's where I always do my 10 to 15 minutes of each dog, no matter what, they get their individual time. And I sucked at that this summer, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. But I guarantee them that they get that special time from me. And I'm not saying that's all they need, but that is a really important part of our relationship. And that's something that is a priority to me, and a boundary that I set, that if I can't have that time, then I don't need the dogs I have.
Right.
And I sure like them. I don't want to get rid of them.
I know. They're kind of fabulous.
They're kind of good in my book.
I think it's just, and what's hard, I think, is this, you go through this realization that it's like, whoa, these are a lot of dogs. I need to start thinking about the dynamics between them, and
try to go on vacation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Don't even go there. But it's just like when you start to realize that it's not the same as, when you grow up and you've got, these two just friendly family pets or whatever, it's not the same.
Yeah.
But I think what's important is to not place judgment on that.
Yes.
Because you have these dogs, and I'm also talking about myself, right? I've got these dogs because I love what they bring to the table. Like I get so much out of working my dogs, and I get so much, and I love every single bit about them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you also have these kind of dogs, they're different. They're not.
It's a lifestyle.
It is. It is. But I think it's important to be both realistic and fair to yourself, and thinking and fair in the expectations of the dogs. Because what I think is unfair is to expect them to just like sing around the campfire, sing Kumbaya, right? It's just,
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
And if you're feeling miserable about it, guess what?
Yeah.
They're going to feel miserable about it. So
exactly.
so you can't
'Cause
allow
they
that
are who
either.
they are,
Yeah.
right? They are who they
They're
are.
happy with the time that they get, and being thoughtful about that time is what's important.
And there's really nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
I think that's also
And
important.
that's the huge part right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's huge.
My first vet is a farm vet, and I had Quinn, and I mean, Quinn is my unicorn. Like, you'll never prove me different that he wasn't the most amazing creature that's ever existed. And the vet tech took his temperature, and, you know, I always have control over the situation. And I guess it's a new vet tech, first day there. And she didn't get the right reading. So she stuck the thermometer back in his butt and surprised both of us.
Oh.
And he turned and nipped at her arm, and he bruised her arm.
Mhm.
And the vet came in and she's like, "Why would you have a dog like this? Who would ever want a dog like this?" And I'm like, okay, I'm going to handle myself here. Because, you know, I had to calmly explain what her vet tech had done. And she's like, "Well, he still shouldn't have nipped at her." And I'm like, okay, this will be my last visit here.
Yep, we're done.
Yes, this is it. I'll now be finding a new vet. And, you know, and it's just, you have to find where you fit. I mean, that my new vet is amazing. Like today we did a blood draw on checkmate, and, you know, she's like, "No, I'm going to let you hold him because we know that you're better at it." So again, it's finding expectations, boundaries. You have to have a support system. I kind of mentioned vacation, you know, talking about just how do I get away for a weekend to go do a seminar, you know, and it's so expensive to try to think about, well, how could I board my dogs? Where could I board my dogs? Like, it's not, everything just changes.
You know, what I wouldn't want to do is to just have like one kennel and throw them all in the kennel in this like energized environment and expect to have 4 dogs when I came home. You know,
Yeah.
I just wouldn't expect that. You
No.
know?
No.
It changes
Well,
things.
And it does change things. And, you know, I'm at the point where not only do I have to find a farm sitter, because I have to find somebody, you know, Joe works a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running the farm and doing what I do on the farm is actually a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs in the farm are a full-time job. And then, you know, I want to do this other, you know, canine census
5
thing.
other full-time jobs.
Other things that I do.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right. And we will talk about that. And
Balance, what?
so when I try and travel, I need a farm sitter for the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm at the point where I actually need a dog sitter as well. They may or may not be the same person.
Yeah.
And plus, on top of that, I then have to have all of the stress of me traveling. Now, Joe's fine watching the dogs for like a couple of days. But I now have a 9-week-old puppy.
And Stacy and I both are like, and we're single, so keep talking. Do tell,
You're
Robin,
right.
do tell.
Yeah. And so I'm just like,
you've got an Elizabeth and I've got a Nancy, but still.
Right.
It's just not the
we've got
same.
some best friends out there. It's just, yeah.
And Nancy's always offering to help and take dogs, and like she's doing it right now. And I'm like, no, I've got him. It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, and so and then finding that person that you can trust when you have, you know, dogs that are working dogs.
Yeah.
That are dog savvy enough to recognize when shit's gonna start going south so it doesn't get to go south.
Yes.
Is highly important.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, that.
That's like when you're on Facebook or something, you're like this, and they're like pointing up.
Yeah, you're like, just that was it. Drop the mic, walk out. I mean, and
reading the energy in the room, like how's that energy in the room looking? You know, stuff like that. It's just
because even you talked about when you had to separate the 2 girls, and you're like, nope, from now on, it's just you have to know, you have to feel it, and it really is a feeling, and you can start to verbalize it. But it takes a lot of practice to do that. And how do you explain that to somebody?
Separated. Like I don't keep them separate, but I do see a difference in their dynamic, right?
Well, and I look at that and like I'm the way that my house is currently structured at the moment, I even had Flair and Sheba were in with Dash for a little bit
Yeah.
and they're ganging up on Dash.
Yeah.
He's such a
so
lover.
sweet.
Yeah, he's such a lover, not a fighter. He's
It's like
"Dude,
Dash and
just love
Yukon
me."
would probably get
I
along so well.
I
Actually,
know.
they did. He got
They
in,
did.
yeah, he got in his backyard, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, hi. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
geez.
Yeah, but
Yeah, they're like, bro, dude.
Yeah. They're both like surfer dudes.
Yeah.
But it is also knowing your dogs and knowing what combinations might not be good. So,
Yes.
like I see the intensity I have in Powder. I joke around. I do call her my working line Malinois Barbie.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
right? Because she's blonde. Anyway, so I look at that, and then I look at my little resource guarding, snarky, kind of sometimes very cute and very sweet, fluffy, almost 12-year-old dog with no teeth. And I'm thinking, you know what? I just need to be careful here. So
Absolutely.
there are certain combinations that, I mean, putting them both in the backyard together might not be a great idea. So, you really have to be smart, and you have to kind of think about, how you have to like kind of look ahead, like, and taking, it is important to kind of think about the fact that they don't have human morality, because you can't just say, well, they know not to whatever. Like, no, they don't. They're dogs.
Living on a
Yeah.
farm,
And it's my job to keep him safe. So,
right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
living on the farm, it's this whole
Yeah.
cycle of life. And I'll tell you, it's taken me several years to get new farm cats.
yeah. Oh.
And I manage
hmm
before I take the dogs for a run,
Mhm.
I feed the cats. They have a specific place
Mhm.
that they can go that
Yeah.
the dogs can't get in, that they can get in, and they're safe, and that's where their food is located.
And it has nothing. This is what I also want people to understand. It doesn't mean that that dog is aggressive, because I think people start
Absolutely not.
slap
No.
labels on things. It means that some dogs are more predatory because they're dogs. And and when you layer drive on top of that, you need to be smart. And that's really what it is.
It's like saying that a human could never have a disagreement.
Right.
Correct.
And
Right.
when a dog has a disagreement, they have it with their teeth, with their mouth, because that's what they have. When we have it, we might have a fight with our hands or a fight with our verbal skills.
Mhm.
And some of the psychological wars that we hold on each other are just awful.
Yes.
But to think that we can't extend that to other animals, that they have to like everybody and everything.
Crazy. It's
Oh,
crazy.
yeah, that's the word. Thank you.
It really is. And then you have to be, worried that if something does happen, that, the Facebook world is going to just like come crashing down on you. And that's just not fair.
Oh man, that's a toxic world. That's why I was so surprised. I didn't even really think anything about this post. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night, a memory post up.
Mhm.
And it was the first time they had a little scuffle. And my brain said, oh, I wish I could be back to that time,
Yeah.
before they had that scuffle, to see if I could have made it work out between the two of them.
Yeah.
And for so many people to comment on that, I just blew my mind. So I messaged you guys and was like, we might need to chat about this sometime,
Yeah.
because I can't believe. And I guess I just thought that that people even knew. I didn't realize that I didn't make it something that I talk about, but it's not something you talk about daily. But
Yeah.
I was just surprised that so many people could relate, which I'm not surprised by that, but that I didn't think that I hid the fact.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting. And then a lot of people were like, oh yeah, and I deal with so much guilt and I have all these feelings. And it was like, oh yeah, you are not alone, sister and brother and whoever,
Yeah.
it's like, we're all feeling this and we're all doing the best we can in the day we can. And yeah, there's just so much that gets tied to it.
And then on the other side of that, because some of what we're talking about, and Stacy, you're like the dogs don't have morality. But then on the other flip side of that, you hear, well, how does the dog feel? and some of the feelings conversations that go along with it, which then we're anthropomorphizing onto the dogs on what they're feeling, when they have no morality.
Yeah, we're doing observations to see, and then we're relating that to how we feel to make it make sense to us.
And so we're implying all of these constructs onto the dogs where, sometimes I'm pretty sure my dogs are pretty happy that they have a warm place to sleep. They get 2 meals a day and they get some training time.
And that's expectations. You have to look to see what are the expectations, what are the boundaries, and that's where we have to find the kindness for ourselves. And that's where I love what Nancy had suggested about, okay, my dog would thank me for this, or my dog would be, this is the love letter my dog would write to me.
Right.
Just to help you realize that, man, you do a lot more with them than you think you do.
Yeah.
But you always think, man, there could be more, there could be more. Like when I talked to Bobby, it was always, I feel like I have this, now that I know more, I almost get paralyzed sometimes because I don't want to do it wrong.
Yeah. Right. Whereas, what? I'm pretty sure Dash would just pretty much be excited if I get him out of the kennel and we would play, directional games in the basement for 5 minutes. He'd be super excited.
But I'm like, okay, but the posture has to be right and the timing. And I'm like, no, just stop it.
Just play
before
with the
you
dog.
do it, it was just play with the dog. So, and if you learn new things, okay, add it in.
Right.
But don't let it stop you.
Agreed.
We're running out of time.
I know.
I want to talk about some of this more, but here's my takeaway. I think the real talk awareness piece was what surprised me, that it was a conversation that a lot of people felt like people thanked me. I was like, what are you thanking me for? I just told you that I crate and rotate. Like, that's all the post said.
Right.
And I guess I didn't understand that a lot of people don't talk about it. And it really scares me when I see people that are going out and getting, Labradors are sweet, you guys. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry. That was out loud, wasn't it?
They are sweet, but they also come in a lot of different flavors.
Yeah. And they see these dogs out there doing amazing things. They're like, I want that. And they don't understand all the packaging that comes with that and the life change that can happen with that. And that crate and rotate is a possibility. And then how do you survive that life? And then not only survive it, but how can you then be okay with it in yourself? Because something you said, Stacy, is what I cried for 3 or 4 days after Yukon. Every day I would just come home and hold him. Mm-hmm. And it was, my job is to keep you safe, and I failed you. And I know that I will fail you again. And I can't hardly live with myself for that feeling. Yeah. And so that's the things you have to be thoughtful of anytime you bring a new animal into your house. It's dynamics change. So that's my takeaway, is to be aware, be thoughtful, and know that it's not unicorns and all happiness all the time. This is a daily crate and rotate. It's a daily schedule. And I don't want to call it a challenge. I want to call it a routine. And it's an awareness.
Responsibility.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah. So my takeaway is I also want to kind of just remind people that dogs are they're a big function of their genetics. And we desire so much of, a lot of times when we're doing, heavy duty sports or working with a dog, with working dogs, we're desiring those drives, because that's really what's producing what we're trying to get at. Right. And with those genetics come a lot. Drive isn't just for searching, or it isn't just for, whatever you want that dog to do. Drive comes out in a lot of different ways, and sometimes it can come out in ways that maybe you didn't expect. Because, for instance, if you have that picture of that nice happy-go-lucky Labrador, right, and you end up with a high drive version, may not be what you expected, and that you need to really kind of respect that, and don't judge the dog for that if they don't act within kind of your expectation. That it's they're dogs. And I just keep coming down to they don't have human morality. Don't try to impose it on them, and just still appreciate them. And when you do bring that dog into your house, just think about how do you maintain a safe and and happy, right, household that where every dog can feel fulfilled and feel safe, and that's the important thing. And you got to be kind to everybody, kind to your dog, kind to yourself.
It's eye-opening the first time you see a dog. Do you know what I mean? Like the first time that a dog does something that's a little unexpected, and then wait, oh, that wasn't unexpected. You're being a dog.
A dog. Yes.
They're not all just cute pictures on Facebook. They're dogs.
I mean, my takeaways are I have learned, because I have some really great friends, some who are on this call and some who I don't think even listen to the podcast, but it's okay. Who bringing a dog like Nico into my house was a very long-term discussion because of who he could be at that point. Who he is at this point is a lot of training, but I also understand that he's a KNPV line Dutch Shepherd.
Yeah.
And then you put him with my motor British Lab, and they are equally matched. Which should actually probably really frighten people who think labs are like this cuddly, awesome little thing.
That's why I say there's a lab for everybody, because there's so much variety in the breed.
But having to manage, it looks great when you go out and you spend that 2 minutes of doing a detection problem, or you're doing your nose work, or you're doing your cadaver dog problems or whatever. But that's 2 minutes out of that dog's entire life for the other 24 hours that you have to live with them.
Yeah.
So when people start looking at, well, I want a dog like that, well, find somebody who has a dog like that and have a very real conversation about what having a dog like that actually is like 24/7.
Yeah.
And hopefully people hear us because we're being real. Like I shared a very real, very traumatic story.
Yeah.
And we've all shared stories of fights that we've had, and it happens. We're not out of the norm. We are very normal.
Yes. And
that's one more on that is that when people would tell me you are such a great dog mom and I would love to come back in a next life as one of your dogs, I would feel like such a fraud if I didn't share these kinds of things. Yeah. And I think even after, I didn't share the long, terrible fight story because it was too hard on me. Like, that's why I couldn't share it then. Man, that was so hard. And I'm like, I gotta be real. I mean, there's no way. And people would still say it. Like, I know people still know that I'm a great dog owner and that I do the best I possibly can for my dogs. And so that's the part that you can't hold that guilt on yourself if you're a person that holds guilt like me.
Yeah, I think the only other thing is I would just say is that it's important to not just slap a like some people just say, oh, well, that's an aggressive dog. The answer is no, it's not. Dogs are dogs, and genetics can come out, and you just have to be smart. Just be smart,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys, for a very real discussion. Yes.
Guess who I'm going to go hug after this?
No kidding. Thanks, everybody. Make sure to check out the website for the most recent episodes if you aren't keeping track, and make sure to follow us on Facebook. And we greatly appreciate
and Instagram.
Yeah.
We
greatly appreciate all of your feedback and suggestions for the podcast. You should see the agenda we have for the remainder of the year. It's fantastic. So thanks, everybody, and go train.
Canine Detection Collaborative. We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to K9DetectionCollaborative.com. That's K9 DetectionCollaborative.com. where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.